Hello everybody. As many of you already know, I have like this passion for colorful makeup, and a huge part of my content is dedicated towards exactly that. Just being creative with makeup, exploring with color and all that. But what a lot of you might not know is for a long time, in fact, from the time I started wearing makeup when I was like 12 or 13 years old on a regular basis, up until like about 1 year, 2 years ago, I used to wear like literally almost exclusively neutral colors in my makeup routine. And for a long time, I was buying neutral makeup. I was really, really into that kind of look. And right now, it's kind of, I would say, difficult to believe that even for myself because I look at my preferences and they have just changed so much. But I was looking through my makeup collection just now and I came across a few of my older palettes that I got years ago, palettes that I think mark the beginning of this obsession for makeup that I had. And I figured it would be interesting to pull some of them out and show them to you and tell you the story behind each one of those, tell you like why I bought each palette, and just give you a little bit of an insight to the person I was at the time, where my mind was at, and what I think of these palettes now. So without further ado, let's just get into this video. It'll be a very nostalgic one, but I'm very much looking forward to sharing this stuff with you. I'm going to pick out what I think is the oldest palette in this entire stash that I have in front of me. This is a Kat Von D, I know, I bought Kat Von D at one point, Shade and Light Eye Palette. I was so incredibly happy when I first got this because this color story was, to me, so incredibly groundbreaking because at the time I don't think any other brand had really introduced eyeshadow shades in this kind of way, because the way that this was marketed when this palette first launched years ago was that this little quad over here was for your warm tones, this quad was for cool tones, and then this quad was for like more neutral tones, and this was meant to be like a contour palette for the eyes. And at that time, from what I can remember, that concept was very revolutionary. That's why this palette was for a very long time a cult favorite, very much beloved by a whole bunch of different people, myself included. And I mean, I still love the packaging. Like, this is the old packaging now. Whenever, well, Kat Von D still sells this palette, but the packaging has changed. I still love this packaging. It's like, I mean, I don't know, there's just something about it. And of course, this was much, way before the entire, like, scandal started happening with Kat Von D. But I do remember Kat Von D at that point in time being a brand that I just fell in love with because of just how edgy it was and how beautiful the makeup was as well. So for a long time I was buying a lot of Kat Von D, and this was definitely one of my most coveted palettes. Now I look at it and I think, okay, wow, this color story, in my opinion, right now is so incredibly basic. I don't really need this kind of thing anymore in my collection, but I have so many fond memories associated with this palette, and even now, I haven't decluttered this palette, and I've actually decluttered a whole bunch of neutral palettes. I've given them away, I've gotten rid of them, but this palette I keep because I still remember like the person that I was when I first got this palette. I was so much younger. Not that I'm like older now by like any significant amount of time. I'm like 20, but I got this palette when I was, how old was I? Like 14, 15? I don't know. It was like a long time ago. And I felt so happy when I got this palette. And I would specifically always love using like this shade right here. For some reason, I just loved that shade. But yeah, I have like a lot of fond memories associated with this palette. Now I don't even use it at all because A, it's not my style, and B, it's Kat Von D, but like I remember having so many fond memories associated with this palette. Moving on though, let's talk about this next one right here. This is another neutral palette, guys. Lots of neutral palettes in this video, of course. But this is the Lorac Pro palette. I have featured the Lorac Pro 2 palette a lot on my channel because I have been trying to get through it. But I decided to spotlight this palette in this video because I remember for a long time this palette was something that I really just desperately wanted. And this was at a time when I couldn't necessarily buy that much makeup. And I looked at this like palette as being like a $42 palette, and for me like that was so expensive. Of course things have changed, but this palette was for me like everything. And I mean, these colors were just so beautiful to me, and I loved this palette so much, and I wasn't even like using some of these shades. Like some of these shades I would just like swatch just for the fun of it. I remember swatching like this gold shade like repeatedly, and I barely even used it on my eyes. And I used to always love using like these mattes right here, like this chocolate one, this brown one, and this black one. I use these all the time. And then I remember I used this cream shade to set my entire lid back when I did that. And then I used this taupe shade as a crease color. I do think that right now I own better formulas that I like much more, and I like those other colorful shades more than these. But I just remember being so incredibly happy when I finally got this palette, and all my favorite beauty gurus were talking about it. I remember Alana Davidson. Alana Davidson. She was like, I actually started watching her way before she got the success that she is at right now. I started watching her when she was like at 50K, I think, or even less. And she was talking about this palette all the time. And I was like, okay, this college girl, she's so beautiful, she's so confident, so she's recommending this palette, I must get it. And if you look at this, like, at this mirror, I actually sat on this palette. I know. This was back in my old room when I was like filming videos and I was sitting on the floor and I basically sat on this palette and this mirror completely cracked. So yeah, this palette has seen a lot of my butt. But yeah, another wonderful palette that I just remember feeling so like happy about when I got it. This is the Stila Eyes Are the Window Shadow Palette, and this is in the shade Selection Soul. This is pretty much it right here. I don't know. I'm actually considering decluttering this or just giving it to somebody who will like it a lot more than me because I don't even use these shades anymore. And I do remember getting this palette specifically because who is it? Amelia Liana. She is a British beauty vlogger, and for a long time I was watching her obsessively. I was like watching every single video she did. Now, of course, her styles are like a little bit different, but she was somebody that I just aspired to be. So I was watching a lot of her videos, and she recommended this palette, and I was like, you know what? Since Amelia has recommended this palette to me, I must get it. And I remember being like, the mirror is amazing. And it is. You can see every single pore out of my face. But this palette just in general has a lot of like really just nice memories associated with it. This shadow right here, Kitten, was so iconic back in the day. It was like Stila's, I guess, top-selling eyeshadow. I have no idea. I feel like it was. But yeah. Is this palette the best thing ever? Now, no, because I mean, like, these mattes, I'm just gonna be frank with you, these mattes are not the best. The shimmers and the metallics are better, but I've seen much better than this palette, but I still have some nice memories associated with it, and I felt like so like fancy, like having like this gold palette, you know. You know me, just I'm so fancy. But yes, let's talk about another palette. This one you might have seen more of on my channel. I have featured this in more videos recently. I've been trying to put in more effort to use it more. This is the Urban Decay Naked Smoky palette. So this palette was, for me, my first and only naked palette besides the naked basics that I kept getting, but this was a palette that I got after much deliberation because I remember when I was first getting into makeup, the Naked 1 and the Naked 2 were both out, okay, the original Naked 1. And I remember watching videos and people were using it and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is such a beautiful palette. And I think that for some reason, I think I couldn't get it because I mean, it was like $50, right? So I waited and I waited and I waited and I waited. I was like thinking, okay, what's the best naked palette that I could get? Because wanted to get one that was like very unique looking. I wanted to get one that was like neutral but with like a little bit of interest. That was a little bit interesting. And I heard a lot of people, most notably Tati Westbrook, talking very favorably about this palette. I think also Fleur de Force was talking about it. Everyone was raving about it, and I was like, you know what? I want to get it. And I got it, and I was so happy about it, and then I I barely used it, okay? Like, I barely used this palette. I used these shades at the end a lot. I swatched this one on my arm a lot. I swatched this one on my arm a lot for no apparent reason. But yeah, I didn't use this palette as much. Now I use it a lot more than I used it back then, which is weird, but yeah, I mean, this is kind of like your edgy palette. The mattes, in my opinion, are not the best. I think that Urban Decay really does satins, like, well, not satins, shimmers and metallics really, really well. So that's their selling point, in my opinion. This palette is in a lot of people's declutter videos. It's not nearly as popular as it once was. I think all the people that were talking about it back in the day have now stopped talking about it because there are better palettes out there. But I still keep this because, I mean, the packaging is just like beautiful, and the colors inside I still use, even though this palette is a little bit old. But anyway, I'm just using it on myself, of course. I would never use this on anybody else. Oh my god, oh my gosh, this is another recommendation that I got from Tati Westbrook. I used to watch Tati Westbrook like religiously, like a ton. I remember I was watching Flirty Force first. She is a British YouTuber, and she and Tati were very good friends. I don't know how they met, but Flirty Force was like pretty big back in the day, like pretty big for a YouTuber. So she was very well known, and she was basically spotlighting Tati, who at the time had like just I think 100,000 subscribers, or even 200,000 subscribers. In any case, she didn't have like a very big following, and Flirty Force spotlighted Tati a few times, and I was like, huh, this Tati person seems pretty interesting. You know, like she has a lot of like really good content. She recommends a lot of really inexpensive makeup, so that was really relatable to me. So I started watching her, and at some point she was recommending these palettes right here. This brand is now non-existent. This is called the Estee Edit, and if you think that sounds familiar, it does, because Estee Lauder pretty much decided to launch a brand called the Estee Edit, and it was supposed to be like an edgier version of Estee Lauder, meant for like younger people. And as far as I can tell, they launched a lot of like really interesting stuff, but I think that something happened that they weren't as popular as they anticipated or something, and now you can never, like, now you can't get the brand anymore because the brand doesn't exist. But back then they launched these palettes right here. So this was basically a set of 2 palettes, and they were magnetized so you could like put them like that, right? So this was the Glow Face and Eye palette, and this is what it looked like right here. Okay, that's it. And then this other palette was my absolute favorite, and this was the Gritty Eye palette. Look at that. I loved this so much. I remember specifically loving these 2 shades and this gold shade. I was just obsessed. So yeah, I mean, like, I have so many fond memories associated with these palettes. I still think that these metallics are absolutely bomb. And I just wore these palettes all the time. Like, I wore this one most of all because I loved it so much. And I would occasionally wear the glow version, I guess. This one right here, but I didn't like it as much. That's what I remember. But I mean, I just like, I loved the concept. I loved the pan size. I loved the packaging. It looked so beautiful to me, and this was just something that I got because of Tati Westbrook. And yeah, I remember being so happy when I got these, and I think that for some reason I ended up buying another version of these 2 palettes because I was like, oh my gosh, these palettes are so amazing. I have to get these. I got to get another set of these in case I run out. That was ridiculous. I still haven't even hit pan on these because the pan size is so enormous. And I still don't even, like, I don't even use these anymore. They're still good, but I just don't use them because on my channel, I just like to spotlight brands that you can get, you know, for your guys' benefit. But yeah, I still have like another one of these lying around unopened. But I remember being so happy when I got these. Like, I loved these palettes so much. And for a long time, I think they were like my favorite palettes. But let's talk about Anasazi Beverly Hills. Now, there are so many palettes from Anasazi Beverly Hills that I could mention in this video, but I've talked about a lot of the Anasazi Beverly Hills palettes at length with you guys, but I wanted to specifically talk about this palette right here, okay? This is the Master Palette by Mario, and if you guys are fans of Mario, also known as Kim Kardashian's makeup artist, you might remember when he launched this palette with Anasazi Beverly Hills. I think for a long time he was a brand ambassador, or he had like some sort of like role in Anasazi Beverly Hills. He doesn't do it anymore, but he was working with them for a long time, and I think that right around the time he stopped working with them, he created this palette right here. And if you open it, these are all the shades that are in there, and you had so many like beautiful tones in here. I still think that even in today's market, this is a very unique take on a neutral color story. A lot of these shades that are, in my opinion, difficult to dupe, most notably this green color. I mean, I don't think I have like anything similar to that shade, and so many, like, this color story just in general is uniquely neutral. Like, it's neutral, but there are so many unique options in it. I don't wear it because it's not my style. Like, I like something that's a little bit more vibrant nowadays. I like something that's just more colorful, but I still think the quality of this palette holds up, and that just goes to show how good Mario is at what he does, because everything, like, I mean, I have this palette from him, and then I also have where is it? The KKW Beauty and Mario palette that Mario also helped create. And these two palettes are still really good quality in my opinion. This one you can still get, but I'm not technically mentioning this in this video because I wanted to specifically talk about this palette because this is just like such like a, I would say like iconic older palette. And I remember being so happy when I got this because at that time I was such a huge fan of Mario, still am, and I was like, you know what, I need to get this. And I remember ordering it from the ABH website, and I was so happy when it came. And then I started doing look after look after look with this, and I posted them all on my YouTube channel. I'm not even sure if you can still watch those videos. I'm not even sure if they're still up. But back then, I still had my YouTube channel, and I was wearing this palette a ton, and I absolutely loved it, and it was so good. And I remember back then, I was not nearly as good as doing makeup as I am right. And I remember back then I wasn't the best at doing makeup, and I still enjoy this palette immensely because it was so, so good. And I still keep it as a reference palette almost because I like having this palette on hand because I think that this palette is such a testament to Mario's style and his way of doing makeup that I like opening this palette and I like seeing the colors because I can be like, okay, yeah, this is what Mario likes. Like, this is his style. And for some reason, I just like that. And see, the thing is, there are some makeup products that I don't see myself decluttering anytime soon, and this is one of them. And to be honest, I don't have a lot of makeup products that I feel like that way about, but for some reason, this palette, because of where I was when I first got this palette, and because of just how iconic this palette is to me, I don't see myself decluttering this anytime soon, even though I still wouldn't necessarily wear this palette because I got it a while back. But I mean, like, this is like the old Anasazi Beverly Hills packaging. Like, this is the format that they use with all these different shades, and I mean, I look at this palette and I have so many fond memories associated with it. I just love it. These palettes, for me, they mean more than just makeup. And of course, that's a notion bordering on the edge of ridiculous because I don't think that we should devote so much emotional space to material objects. But I really look at these palettes as being indicators of who I was and who I've transformed into because makeup has been such a significant part of my life for so many years, with this YouTube channel and with my style evolution, if you will, that these palettes, they bring back memories of a young girl who didn't necessarily know who she was, didn't necessarily have the same advantages as I do now. And also, I will say this, at that time I didn't know how good I had it, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I have like these kind of fond memories associated with these palettes, and I just wanted to share them with you for a little bit. But thank you so much for watching until the end, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys.